The United States has fallen to 48th in the world in press freedom, right below Botswana and Chile and Romania. And when we talk about American exceptionalism, there are areas where the U.S. legitimately leads the world, but there are also areas where many Americans think we are at the top, and we're actually not. So, like an example would be infant mortality. Among the developed world, the United States is near the worst when it comes to infant mortality. Education. If you look at math and science test scores for kids, we're way behind a lot of the world in the United States. The so-called business climate, which many think is so great in the United States, turns out there are lots and lots of countries where the environment is better for entrepreneurship and for starting businesses than in the United States. When it comes to freedom of speech and specifically freedom of the press, we might think that we're near the top, but we're actually not. Even though you might think journalists are able to just do their thing, everyone's free to report on those in power, it's all delightful in the United States. It's not. And the new Press Freedom Index from Reporters Without Borders has the U.S. down even further from 45th to 48th in the world, right below Botswana, Chile, and Romania, and now solidly in a section of countries called problematic from a freedom of the press standpoint. Norway is again at the top. Sweden is near the top, the Netherlands, and the reason why the United States continues to slide partially has to do with Donald Trump's continued attacks on the press. This is actually a global trend that we're seeing in total. Journalistic independence has been sort of pushed down over the last year. Safety for journalists globally is down. But in terms of the United States, you've got Donald Trump's anti-media rhetoric, more and more journalists needing security protection, Trump talking about requiring journalism licenses, Trump talking about making it easier to sue media outlets, Trump talking about shutting media outlets down, Trump talking about how it would be nice to have state media, and this is fomenting a sort of climate of disbelief towards media outlets, and it's part of this package that Donald Trump embodies of authoritarian strongman behavior, which around the world is increasing violence against journalists, as we've seen with a number of stories over the last several weeks. When Trump says, what you're hearing and what you're seeing, you shouldn't believe it, you should believe me instead. That is extraordinarily anti-freedom of the press and trust of the press. And then there's another aspect to this that's really important, but it's not always discussed. The right-wing nationalists who do the entire, if you question the commander-in-chief, if you question our healthcare system, if you question our military engagements, you're not patriotic and you're anti-American. That same ideology foments the anti-media sentiment. When media critically reports on what the government is doing, which they should, right? I mean, you've got to hold you've got to hold the powerful accountable. The nationalist sentiment that brands individuals as unpatriotic for questioning the government does the same thing to media. In the same way that there is an enclave of nationalists in the U.S. who, if you question what the hell are we doing in Iraq, for example, you're branded as unpatriotic. If you are a media outlet that questions what we're doing in Iraq, to use the same example, you were equally branded as unpatriotic, and it is creating and catalyzing and growing this anti-media environment in a way that is literally physically dangerous for journalists in the United States and elsewhere. And there's a growing portion of the American population that actually agrees with Donald Trump that the media is the enemy of the people, that you can't believe what you're seeing and hearing with your own eyes. And this is a massive problem. And the more people believe this, the worse it's going to get for journalists and for press freedom. If you believe in American exceptionalism, then you shouldn't be happy with being ranked 48th in press freedom when it's codified in the Constitution of the United States, in the Bill of Rights to the Constitution of the United States. If you really want to talk about American exceptionalism, we should be disgusted that we're 48th in terms of press freedom. I want to hear from you about this. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman, and the show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show. Let me know what you think.
Today's episode is sponsored in part by the BRD Bitcoin wallet. Whether you have experience with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies or you've been wanting to give it a try for the first time, BRD offers the most elegant, easy to use Bitcoin wallet out there. It's an app on Android and iOS, lets you trade cryptocurrencies, store all of your Bitcoin and crypto on the app totally free, send and receive Bitcoin with the app, use a credit card to purchase cryptocurrency, and it's 100% private and secure, virtually impossible for someone to hack your account. BRD themselves won't even know your information. There are no logins, no passwords. You just use your key to access your Bitcoin, and you're the only one who has access to it. It was the first ever Bitcoin wallet in the iOS App Store. They've been around since 2014. They have more than 2 million users. BRD is one of the oldest, most established, and most trusted Bitcoin wallets in the industry. We recently interviewed Aaron from the BRD team, and it was a great conversation. You should search our channel for it and check it out. All BRD wants to do is to make Bitcoin more accessible and simpler to use for those who want to use it. And that's what they've accomplished with their super powerful, easy to use app. Download it. It's perfect for anyone who's just getting started with Bitcoin. Just as good if you already know what you're doing. I've put a link underneath this video.